Start. 4:10 ஆயிடுச்சு. Hello, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Let us start now, ma'am. Okay.
Okay. So, do you want me to start first?
First, I will give the welcome address and first introductory. Then you start, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Good evening, one and all. Let us start our Tiruvallur University Constituent College's webinar series with the blessings of God Almighty. And I am Dr.L.Sangeetha, Head PG Department of English, Tiruvallur University Constituent College of Arts and Science, Kallakurichi. Today we are going to start the international webinar on American literature. I feel immensely honored to give the welcome address as the organizer of this one-day international webinar. At the outset, it gives me immense pleasure to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Kamarichilvi ma'am, and our respected Registrar, Dr. Syed Shafi sir, and our Constituent College's Director, Dr. Dandapani sir, and our Dean, Dr. Thangaraj sir, for their appreciation to us. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor and Registrar, service-minded persons towards the welfare of the students and the staff members. Next, I welcome our foreign resource person, Dr. Wahaj Unis Barda from Prince Satam bin Abdul Aziz University, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Welcome, ma'am. Last but not least, I welcome all our fellow participants who are willingly and actively participating in all our Tiruvallur. Invite our respected registrar to this program, but due to his busy schedule, he hasn't joined with us. Anyhow, I welcome sir. Thank you one and all. And let me start my presentation, introduction to American literature, and the second session will be continued by our foreign resource person. First, let me start my presentation. Very brief introduction to American literature. Let me start now. Please find the PPT. Yes. So my topic is introduction to American literature. Political, yes. Please mute others. Please mute your audio. Yes. PPTs is. So the political and social forces always make their imprint on a literature, especially America, where the democratic process brings the people into immediate familiarity with and sensitive response to cultural forces. The literature has responded quickly to such pressures. The end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century had experienced worldwide upheavals such as the two world wars, the spread of communism, and the rise and fall of fascism, and such localized or national events as the Great Dust Bowl disaster to Midwest agriculture. The increasing urbanization and the concentration of population in suburban areas, the advent of the automobile, the radio, the moving picture theaters, and the electrification of rural America are the factors that modified the social, cultural, and literary life of the nation. American literature reflects the practical concerns of the people in their attempt to survive in a wilderness, mainly factual prose, fiction, and poetry shows immediate concerns of the early settlers. It conveys the information and persuades the readers. It also records the events the frontier was also depicted. Columbus' lost sail recorded the success and failures of the orders given to an unstamped land. The frontier offered a subject for speculation and appeared in the light of its cruel or benevolent effect of the on settlers' life. Today, the Americans see the world as a place of passionate moral struggle. It tests the individual and the national commitment to virtue and moral right. Moral struggle, the drama of good versus evil, has been the prominent theme in American literature. In early works, Satan appears as a flesh and blood and plots for the human downfall. Thus, evil was presented as the formidable inner force. According to the Puritan Jonathan Edwards, human beings are prone to sin. Nathaniel Hawthorne examines his Puritan spirit by looking into the psychology of sin. The theme of sin and its ensuing guilt became the obsessive center of his fiction. And Hawthorne examined the effects of adultery, deception, and betrayal in his novel The Scarlet Letter, which was published in the year 1850. He focused the results of the sins of distrust and alienation in Young Goodman Brown. It was published in the year 1835. In this, Goodman accepts the Puritan view of human depravity and also accepts that evil is the nature of mankind. And Melville's view of life's tragic dimensions was similar to Hawthorne's. The latter was obsessed with the guilt resulting from evil, but Melville was concerned with the origin and nature of evil. His novel Moby Dick in 1851 involves a universe where good and evil are inextricably linked. The novel portrays good and evil in richly symbolic terms and represents a true picture of evil in the squalor of the 19th century. Harriet Beecher Stowe and Frederick Douglass attacked the conscience of a nation that permitted slavery while Seattle protects the government's confiscation of his land. It is surprising that evil was such as obsessive concern and reform. It is zealously pursued in an era dominated by the optimistic philosophy of transcendentalism. It is maintained that evil is that tested the ideas of transcendentalism. While espousing the sought governmental reforms, writers like Melville and Hawthorne satirized transcendentalism and throughout their work devoted themselves to dramatizing the power of blackness. Even before Hawthorne and Melville, Edgar Allan Poe created a world controlled by mysterious. The sinister forces are beyond rational control and that often led to disaster and death. Later, American writers found that evil linked with chance determined human fate. Modern American writers find their way to the theme through a kind of dark comedy known as black humor. Flannery O'Connor has made his fictional trademark the symbolic presence of the devil in an absurd world. America's strong Puritan heritage with its enduring image of life is a continual struggle with the Satan of good versus evil. It continued to be the central theme in American literature. In the 20th century, individualism received its strongest and vivid expression. The theme runs throughout Ralph Waldo Emerson's work and inspired such essays as Self-Reliance in 1841, a call to the readers to discover and rely on their selfhood. Emerson's friend and disciple Henry David Thoreau took Emerson's theory and put it into practice by going to live alone at a pond near Concord to experience individualism. And Walt Whitman made the theme of individualism so much his own that he is known as its most eloquent poet. Is audio is clear in YouTube? Yes, okay. Then let us pass on to Mark Twain, found the theme of individualism among the frontier motives that characterized all his books. His early works, Roughing It, 1872, suggests that self-reliance is needed by all the settlers in order to survive, especially in a land with a less social comfort and structure. His characters like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer always fall back on their own resources, plan common sense, or native shrewdness to endure. Emily Dickinson applied the theme of individualism to her poems. The American theme was a combination of many things. Some of them included spiritual longing, material enterprise, the quest for freedom, and equality that led to the founding of nation. The earliest American settlers saw America as an embodiment of their hopes. It was
The literature that was written at this time but was written by Cotton Mahars. I will just tell you about it later. These are this is the map of New England. Coming to literature, there was no corpus literary work produced at this time because US books were not taken seriously, because they kept on looking back to England and they were trying to copy the literature of England, and they were not independent at this time. But this is a time when there was great historical, cultural, socio-political, and cultural development happening in America. And the main production of literature happened only after the American Revolution. This is one of the main movements which brought about the change. This is the first printing press, which was set up in Boston. The printing press in 1539 was set up in Boston. In Cambridge, you see, Cambridge and Oxford are names that were used for cities even in America. And the American colonies became leaders in printing literature, but they did not print American literature because they were not free to do so. And some of the American literature was pamphlets and writings which were talking about the colonies, about how they should liberate themselves from the Europeans. But we should also understand at this time that the inhabitants of USA were writers who were actually citizens from other countries. And so their writing was influenced by their backgrounds. Coming to the other important point, you see this map is very dark in the southern states. This map shows the spread of slavery during the 17th century in America. So, due to the lack of labor force, the Spanish were the first people who started importing Africans. Slavery existed in all colonies, not just America. And why was slavery justified? They used the Bible to show justification that Bible had a lot of slave stories in it. And the writers tried to include the fact that slaves were happy and they were content, and it was good that they were being given a good culture, and they were also treated as slaves because of biological inequality. This was also shown that because of the color of their skin, because of their appearance, they were inferior and they were meant to be controlled. And the other justification that was given for slavery was that they had been rescued from their pagan cultures which existed in Africa, and they were shown the light by being converted into Christianity. Now, way back in 1665, there was something which was called the Bonds of Slavery Resolution, which was slaves could be freed only if they convert to Christianity. And then they would be made American nationals. But what happened is in states like Maryland, New York, New Jersey, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia, they accepted everything except the fact of freeing slaves. This is a book by Samuel Sewell. He was a Puritan, and he wrote this Joseph in 1700, and he said that all men were the sons of Adam and they were co-heirs, and he wrote about the inhuman practice of slavery. You see the title, The Selling of Joseph. Joseph, according to the Bible, was meant to be sold into slavery. So that's the reason why it was a book which spoke about anti-slavery. Cotton Mather, he wrote Magnolia Christa Americana in 1702 ideas, and it spoke about the ideas of settling in the promised land. This is a very unusual book. It was called The Travel Journals of Sarah Kimball Knight, which was written in 1704, and there's a woman's journey which she took alone from Boston to New York in the took about the journey. It's more of a journal about how she traveled, what did she do, where did she live, what were the problems she faced. It speaks about that. Coming to Benjamin Franklin, he was one of the people who signed, he was one of the persons who signed the Declaration of Independence, and he is the one who was an inventor and he was a master essayist. And he believed in the self-made man, and he believed in the American dream. But he also realized that there were many things, many evils that were being practiced in the new country. So he spoke about the witchcraft, which was many women were being murdered publicly. They were being killed and executed based on being labeled witches. So he wrote a pamphlet which was called A Witch Trial at Mount Holly in 1730 against that. He also wrote about a narrative of late massacres in 1764, which talks about against the attacks of the killing of Native Americans. And he also satirized slave traders, and he is one of the 3 Americans who had signed in order to end the World War, the War of Independence. Coming to 1765, this is again a very important year because this time there was something which was called the First Stamp Act, which was introduced. And this was done by the British Parliament, by the King in England, without any consultation to the American people. And what it did was, this was direct taxation of the colonial, commercial, and legal papers and newspapers and pamphlets, which were published in America. And the Americans refused to pay this tax, and they strongly opposed the tax. And these people went against the British monarchy, and they called for no taxation without representation. They said that they had to have an American representative in the British Parliament. 6. When George Washington became the first president of America, this was known as the Age of Reason. He came up with the Declaration of Independence. He framed the concept of independence also was equal, but it was unequal. Because there was nothing said about slavery, there was nothing said about patriarchy, and he always used the word men, man. He did not say anything about women or slaves or Native Americans. Thomas Paine, in his book, which is called In Common Sense, argued about the enlightened spirit, and he talked about the rights of man against hereditary monarchy. This lady is very important, even though she is not a writer. She was the first lady. She was the wife of the second president of America, John Adams. And she wrote a letter to her husband saying that when you say all men are equal, why do you not include women? And in response to the letter, John Adams said that your letter made me laugh. So she was the one who, first woman who started raising her voice and saying that why is the Constitution only talking about all men are created equal, men as in man, but it does not include white women, it does not include Native Americans, and it does not include slaves. So that's the reason why she needs to be mentioned, because she is the one who started feeling that America was not equal. It was meant to be equal, but it's not equal. Judith Sargent Murray, she is again a female writer. In 1790, she wrote on the equality of sexes, in which she talks about how women suffer because of the denial of education. She wanted the right of education for all women. James Fenimore Cooper, she wrote Leather Stocking Tales, which is about the indigenous American hero, because Americans did not have a hero of their own. They always used heroes from Europe. So this was a Native American hero by the name of Natty Bumppo. He was a frontier man. Frontier is the person who lives in the wild. We come to 1841 and about Edgar Allan Poe. He is regarded as the father of detective fiction. Of course, his work, The Murders of the Rue Morgue, there are so many others. He was the person who actually started the tales of horror, the gothic genre of literature. Harriet Beecher Stowe, Uncle Tom's Cabin, which depicts the harsh conditions of enslaved African Americans. Harriet Beecher was a woman, and she was a strong abolitionist. And she always used to support the Africans, and she was anti-slavery. Plymouth Plantation is by William Bradford. Even though it was written in 1630, it was published only in 1856. This is regarded as one of the most authoritative accounts of the Pilgrims and of the early years of the colony which they were founded. These are the Brahmin poets. They need to be mentioned over here because these were people who were highly educated. They had gone to very good universities like Harvard and Cambridge, and they